Welcome back to The Watch with me, Lucy Mwendwa. This is JCC TV, where we bring you the uncompromised gospel. Today we are talking about leadership and governance, and my guest is Pastor Justus Kimeu. Karibu sana.
Pleasure to have
Karibu
me.
Mombasa.
Lucy, thank you so much.
I will let you introduce yourself more.
I'm Pastor Justus Kimeu. I pastor JCC Gateway in Nairobi at Sabaki. Right here in Mombasa with Grace Hour Services at Kenya Cinema in Nkrumah Road. Just want to welcome you, everyone, and welcome to the program this morning. Believe we are going to be blessed together.
We have a president-elect who was announced yesterday. Where are we as a country right now?
Well, basically, with the announcement of the new elected president, His Excellency William Samuel Ruto, we are in a mixture of emotions and feelings and experiences. Definitely, given that this was a competition, and in any competition, you have sides. In a democratic competition, the field is big. You have parties, you have candidates, and at the end of the day, when you announce results like it was done yesterday, there are those who run with the victory in celebration. There are those who get crestfallen with the challenge of that they never won. In this case, you have a very closely contested election, and I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the president-elect. But at the same time, it is also important to reflect with empathy, reflect with celebration, the person of Raila Amolo Odinga. This is an eminent citizen. This is a man who has greatly influenced the democratic process in Kenya. And no matter what happens, history will greatly crown Raila Amolo Odinga as a great Democrat, the man who fought for this democratic space with all his life, with all his energy. And much as the president looks like the pinnacle of one's desire in politics, there is a place in history where you place Baba that you would not place any other citizen alive today. And with that, then it's a question of how do you reflect on this? You could feel shy thinking about the people that probably are on the losing side. But that is the nature of competition, that there will be a winner, that there will be a loser. And the manner in which we handle this, the masses are emotional. They will run to the streets, they will do parties, they will do everything, and that is in order. But again, there is the place of the leaders. And I think in the place of leaders, we have the president-elect. And when listening to his speech, he was very cardinal. That number one, he appreciates the issue-based campaign that he ran together with Raila Amolo Odinga. It was issue-based. He celebrated that. Number two, he was very careful that to those who might have done things that were injurious or negative to us, get to know from me. We don't have time for revenge. I think that is the voice of leadership. That is the magnanimity of leadership, that we are not back to the place of settling scores. We are focusing on everybody having their hand on the till to get the nation where it is supposed to go. And for me, that is the tech. The celebrations are in order. You can't keep quiet. When your team is winning or when your group is winning, whether in football, whether in athletics, it is normal to celebrate. And it is also normal to feel lost. But again, we also need to mature that concept of loss, because it is irresponsible when we knew this is a competition, when we knew there will be a winner, there will be a loser, it is irresponsible for people to turn to violence in expressing their displeasure or their dissatisfaction. And in normal competitions, like even in football, a team will score 5-0, and at the end of it all, people exchange t-shirts because we are living to compete again. And that would be the thing that we need to master, that people need to rise and accept with dignity, I lost to my worthy competitor. We have this coming up very strongly, I think, in several cases of this competition in other levels of the governors, of the MPs, of the senators. People came out in good time. I want to be very particular. Was it Kamodo Waiganjo? Not Kamodo Waiganjo. Kabando. He came out very early, very strongly. And I say that I must respect and appreciate the position of the people. It is a democratic right. And in doing this, we must also celebrate the pillars of democracy. The freedom of expression, the freedom of association, the freedom of worship, the freedom of choice of governance, all those, the democratic process in electioneering. These are facts that define what we call democracy. The other issue here is the question of the margins. What defines a win. And some people will tell you, I mean, this was too closely contested, 230 plus votes. In 100 meters, it's a question of fractions of seconds. And the winner is the winner. I mean, you don't have a debate. Here, this is a constitutional provision that you have to get this number of votes in this number of counties out of the 47, and you must get 50 plus 1. 50 plus 1. Out of the 14 million votes, you must get 50 plus 1 minimum. Not plus 2, not plus 3. As long as it gets to 0.1, done. You are the winner. And that is what we have. Given the president-elect was cardinal, we are uniting a nation to move to the next level. I think that is what we need to bear. The third dimension in looking at what has happened is reflecting on the leadership of the outgoing president. I think we are celebrating so much of where we are and where we are going, and we are not looking at where we have arrived as a country. I want to be very cardinal that personally, as a person analytically looking at Kenya, I am so proud of His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. In which manner? This man has worked with exceptional wisdom in managing the country. For the first time, we have had a pre-election period without violence, done elections without violence, and finished the elections with minimal. I mean, with minimal. If you are there, you have been there in years past, you couldn't imagine what is happening. But here we are today, without tribal tensions, without hostilities, without victimization. And I think that kind of wisdom that the president has carried in nurturing the country to this, because it was a vow. I think after the second time it was a vow that we will never again fight because of elections. And number 4, the chairman of the Electoral Commission, in the speech of the president-elect, he said the hero of this process, the man we ought to celebrate, is the chairman of the IEBC, Chebukati. And for the first time, I'm so proud to be associated with elections in Kenya. Initially, you have all these dramas where people have turned up to vote more than 100%. I mean, you're talking about numbers. That people came 100%, 90%. With the present system of tallying votes and the voting system, particularly for the presidential, because this system was particularly on the presidential. The rest you are doing what you do on the ground, they count and they do. But the presidential, you are to transmit through a digital process. So you go with your finger to the KM kit, and then you are given to vote. And the chairman was very cardinal. 3 days to elections. Once you vote at the polling station, get the numbers for your presidential count. take photos of that, send that to us. That is what we will verify and transmit on the public portals. And that alone is a game changer. I mean, when I tell you what you brought me is what I've transmitted, check, confirm, see through whether it reflects what you did. That is the kind of transparency over the years that we have missed. That has been the source of people feeling it is unfair, it was stolen, it was manipulated. In this respect, and for Chebukati, which the president-elect said we were not even aware that it will be a public transmitted kind of a system. When that happens, it minimizes all the dramas and all the stories and all the backstabbing and the belief that there will be manipulation of figures. For me, that is quite a step in the right direction for us as a country, that we are able to get to a transparent. And in this respect, you need to appreciate the former Chief Justice Maraga. It is out of the Supreme Court stopping of the other election that now the voting had to follow a system that is very viable, something that anybody can come through and check and confirm. I think the election of 2017 up to today, the portals are not open. But today, they were open from day one. Go to vote and go check, and there's that transparency. We ought to credit the commission for taking such a step and bringing us to such a threshold in running an election in a third world country and with such a degree of clarity. For me, that is really a step in the right direction.
As you're saying that there was a lot of transparency, the servers were open. What do you make of the deputy chair's remarks about the process being opaque at the end?
Well, it's a question of thinking in retrospect. And given that this is a political process, commissioners are seconded by political parties, things we have to put now in perspective when you look at the dramas. There's a lot to be desired in that all these commissioners were part of the process. The deputy chair stood on the podium at IBC Bomas to announce what they have uploaded, to update, to do what. And you cannot challenge their position that they believe there was opaqueness. The only thing that is missing in their statement is, number one, the timing is suspect. If really they were part of this process, there were issues that were not clear. We had the whole day, and everybody knew from morning, this is the day we are making the declaration of the tallying that we have been going through. My concern is, why didn't these commissioners raise the concerns early enough? Because this is life and death. It's a critical thing. I mean, people have invested, people have voted. If indeed they are valid issues, and we cannot doubt whether they could be having, some of them are eminent people, some of them are lawyers. If there were issues, why look like it is a suspect agenda? The moment the chairman is walking into Bomas is the time you are mounting on your podium to announce your misgivings. If there were valid issues, they should have raised the issues in good time. And number two, you don't come also to the public and say, at the end tail of this, there is opaqueness. Correct. What are you saying? Because saying that is, you didn't say anything really. You need to highlight and point out, we didn't understand this, we didn't understand this, we wish this would be corrected, and for that reason, we don't find our morality correct with what is going to be announced. That would have made Kenyans to feel like, yes, there are issues to address. But if you step on the podium, say there is opaqueness, and you're saying that at the 11th hour, against a constitutional timeline, then the onus is upon the chairman, who is the returning officer, to announce what he believes is in the public domain. And then from there, then the question will be whether is there a need to seek a legal redress? Because the numbers are the numbers. As I've said, the win is 50 plus 1. And on the account of how many constituencies do you cover, which is the valid position. And I think the chairman mentioned that the number 2 candidate did not cover the county threshold. So there are many parameters here to look at. And those commissioners, yes, but they failed Kenyans because they are not there for themselves. If there were pertinent issues to raise, they should have raised them in good time and point out what are the issues so that then, but it looks like they were working at the whims of somebody just to create a platform for a legal challenge, which is the right of everybody if they think it is a right way to approach this. It is a provision within the procedures of handling the electioneering process and disputes if there are any. And I think it is an honorable thing that nobody is fighting. If somebody has to go to court, I think the court system is also clear and open, and we'll be able to get the necessary redress. But for me, we are on a good stand nationally. We are on a good achievement on the morals of running our emotions during electioneering period. We are on a good scorecard with the electioneering process, the chairman and the commissioner. For me, they have done a good job.
The swearing in is set for August 30th. And the president-elect said that he's going to build on the foundation that he and the current president have built. Will we have much of a transition, really?
The question of whether we are transitioning or not is a relative one. But again, change is always constant. So whether for you believe we will change or not change, it is an automatic thing that change is an ongoing process. But again, on reflecting on whether we are changing, when you run government, you run to progress, because you don't change the institution, you occupy the institution that is established. Governing systems are standards which are already sitting in place. The question of change will be reflected on the ambition, the vision, the manifesto that the incoming leadership has presented for us. And one of the credits you give to the Kenya Kwanza brigade in the electioneering was the capacity and the ability for their leader to capture the thinking of Kenyans. In that when you are addressing people, it's a question of their needs. And when you look at the degree of unemployment, when you look at the levels of poverty, when you look at the cost of living, those are the cardinal realities if ever you are going to engage with the population. And the Kenya Kwanza candidate, that is William Ruto, he defined himself with the common man in every bit. And picking from his own lifestyle or his life, that you began from a poor family, you went to school without shoes, and here you are telling people from that background, a chicken seller, I'm stepping into the highest office with your support, my ordinary people, the hustlers for that matter, and the hustler nation, as we have coined the saying. And I must appreciate that this man had the capacity to school people into that thinking, to identify with the mama boga, to identify with the border people, and to tell them together we can rise to make a difference. I think the clarity was there. The challenge is in the implementation, and that is what setting up a new government will require, will dictate. And with a focused leader, it is possible for us to be able to get this country forward. When you look at what the Jubilee government has done, much as we have a concern with the borrowing and with the cost of what you have done, but the infrastructural development, the tertiary training colleges that have been brought on board, the electrification programs across the country. There are key indicators that you can look at and say, really, this government has laid an infrastructure for development. Again, the input that we have in the devolved governments and the provisions that are provided there for these leaders within their jurisdiction to be able to bring development, that is also another game changer with this government. And so I believe with the proper working of the government, on the manifesto that they provided, with the empowerment of the small enterprises and the people with the small businesses, it is possible to kick the economy to performance. You should remember, in our development studies when I was in college, we were taught about session paper number 10. And session paper number 10 was the blueprint that independence for development. It is what nations like Singapore have used to raise to what they are as economies. It is what has been undermined in our governing systems here in this country. And every day, for 50 years, you tell people, tunapigana na maadui watatu, maskini, ujinga, whatever. And in essence, we've not done that. I am looking forward to the practical implementation of the things we are saying. We have a lot of arable land, yet we suffer food insecurity. We have a lot of good farmers who are doing good. And the synchronization of the government system and the farmers to benefit from what they do is not forthcoming. And then you look at the margins of the import of cereals when we have not bought what we have locally, and you realize then there's no political goodwill in building the success of even the things that we are doing. So my challenge to the new government is, can we get practical scorecards of what essentially we are doing? Can we develop agricultural programs that, for example, if we had all these ranches, we have big chunks of land. Suppose the government brought in the question of financing farmers. Then we share profits. What margin do I return to the government kitty, and how much do I benefit as the investor farmer? That would get us out of the problem of us having food insecurity and all that. We have had politicians every day promising what they will never deliver. The question of the food project in Kilifi, Galana Kulalu, it's a good irrigation program, and then you follow, and in the middle of it all, politics becomes the virus in the entire program. Those rivers are still running to the Indian Ocean, the Tana, the whatever, and a sensible government should be able to harvest and harness that water, get programs of irrigation, and then we are able to have food security. Basics that make people suffer. Right now we are fighting with famine. People are starving, and we have all this good land. So I believe we have an opportunity to move to a new level. Personally, I've known His Excellency William Ruto to be a very hardworking person. And I want to believe the same will be interpreted and translated to action in this new government, and we see our achievement going forward.
Is leadership and governance about a person, or is it about a system?
Both. Both in this sense. When you talk about a system is an established avenue of delivering expected results. One of the greatest things we lack in our governance or setups is systems. And for example, when you talk about the reproduction system, it is a physiological setup in the human body that will bring this if this is done. When you talk about the solar system, those are standing systems that will always deliver. And so, number one, it is systems. Once the systems are clear, once the systems are free, once the systems are empowered, it is possible to deliver. Like when you talk about road network, it is a system. I can move from here to there. So number one, it is the infrastructure. Number one, it is a system. That is why before you form a government, you make a constitution, so that the constitution becomes the guideline of policies or of infrastructure of the things that you're going to do. So it is a combination of both. Because even if you have systems, systems will not drive themselves, particularly in governance. It is now the technocrats, the people that have the knowledge, the people that have the goodwill, and then you have the resources, the input, the capital, and from that you are able to realize. So it is the systems, yes, number one. And number two, it's a question of the personnel, the people that are, and the degree of leadership. When you talk about leadership, anybody would pick the example of Tanzania. Before the late Magufuli came into power, Tanzania had lagged in development. You go to Tanzania, whether the airports, whether the roads, whether the wherever, And you can imagine within 4 years, the man, the man, he built systems, he built infrastructure, he built tax collection, and he went forward to release that money to development. Go to Tanzania today, the airports, the roads, even bus stops, you see things that you wouldn't think would be in that country in a period of 4 years. And what I'm saying, it is the man and the systems. We have a very good scorecard from the Kibaki government. Kibaki was very particular on one aspect. We must pay taxes. I think the electronic whatever came about with the Kibaki system, that everybody must pay tax. And when we pay tax, we become self-dependent. And we are able to develop our infrastructure. He did that. So let us talk, number one, about the systems. And number two, who are we putting to be in charge of those systems? We have had a lot of rhetoric about corruption and whatever, and it is only a seesaw of drama of things. You come from anywhere else, you go to KEMSA, you go to this. And so I must say, our governments have not been ever serious when it comes to matters corruption. And we expect this new government not only to speak, but to act on this and to bring us to a place where people will be able to honor the governing systems and the value the resources which are there for the nation and for the betterment of the lives of each and everybody. Otherwise, we continue to chase on promises and the leaders who are enriching themselves through pilferage, and at the end of the day, we are not developing.
We have seen the Nusu Mkate governments, we've seen the handshakes. And yesterday when the president-elect was talking to the press, he said, I believe in a government that has checks and balances. When you have a government that doesn't have an opposition, you run the very high risk of having a government that is not accountable. So do you think that rolls out any chance of having such negotiations with this government that is coming in?
The stories of Nusu Mkate government were survival tactics of a failed democracy, if you would ask me. And MOUs and flawed elections, that's why people had to sit and negotiate. And then you have these kind of arrangements. I like the boldness that the president-elect has posted ever throughout the election hearing. There is no handshake. Na kuna serikali ya Nusu Mkate. That will help us. Because, for example, now, in the last 5 years, we have ran a fake democracy, if you ask me. Because how do you run a government where everybody is in government?
Exactly.
I mean, the opposition is government through the handshake, and everybody is inclining to make sure they are part and parcel of the government. I mean, that is an illegality by itself. And so I am expecting that what we are going to set up is a government which has a strong opposition. Let the opposition be there. And I normally say the opposition is not evil. The opposition is a recognized institution within a democracy. That is why they are paid by the government to oppose the government. Now, that opposing is not for the sake of opposing. It is putting checks and balances. It is somebody to say, you would have done this better than you have done it. We are concerned that you are doing this, you would have done it like this. Now, that is the benefit you bring to the common person, that the opposition becomes a watchdog of the excesses of the government that is in power. And the president-elect was cardinal about that we are expecting a government that will be subjected to checks and balances. Let it not be a say. And we have very good numbers in the opposition, whether in the Senate, whether in the Parliament, and that should be able to inform our way of working, and we should avoid that going to bed with the opposition when they are supposed to be there to provide the counter effect of the governing systems and all that. That is why you also have the concern with what we are calling the committees in Parliament. We have all manner of committees, but we hardly realize anything from those committees. So whatever we are putting in a promise to the wananchi that we are going to help you, I want to believe in this new governance with the information we have, public technology, everybody is aware of what is happening. People are going to style up and be able to put their foot on the ground to deliver promises they have made to Kenyans. It is a big concern when you run and later you realize there was nothing in the whole drama of what you're doing. So we are expecting returns. We are expecting impact. We are expecting develop a scorecard that everybody will be able to look at and say, we have succeeded to this end.
Can we say we are living in a democracy in this country?
Partly yes and partly no. Partly yes and partly no, in the sense a democracy is processed over a period of time. And democracies can be young, democracies can be matured. And when you look at our systems and what we are doing, we would still call ourselves a young democracy, a democracy that has not matured. Why do we say that? In the developed nations where democracy has grown, if you go to America, they have the Democrats, they have the Republicans. Those are sitting parties for hundreds of years, not changed. And people believe in those parties because they are sitting ideological values that they believe in. If we are going to govern, as Democrats, this is what we do. As Republicans, this will be our culture of governance. Over the years, you go to UK, the same. But for us here, we have parties which come in the morning and in the evening we fold. For us, political parties are just vehicles of taking us from point A to B. After Kanu went, you can imagine how many parties we have had. Whether the PNU, whether the Ford Kenyans of this world, we had Jubilee, Jubilee is now no more, we had all these parties. And every session, we bring a new brand. We just bring a new model of a party. We move for 5 years, we dump that one, we open another. So that challenges our ideological values, our ideological tenets, our policies of governance. There is nothing sitting for somebody to inherit. It's what you coin. So you coin something, you use it, you dump it. You coin another one. Now here we are today. All the brigade in UDA was a Jubilee setup. I mean, there was this threat that we are going to kick this fellow out of the party. Na badala kumutoa kwa chama alitoka na chama. So now you wonder, all the songs we sang in Jubilee and the things we believed Jubilee defines, where do they go? So now we are in UDA. You don't know, in next 5 years another party will come. So we are a democracy that is still evolving. But as I said in the beginning, we have things to celebrate. The 2010 Constitution, much as it looks like an activism kind of a democracy or a constitution, it has a lot to help us get where we are going. And that is one of the things we need to celebrate. We have the freedom of speech. Those who have been here for 25 plus years, they know there's a time in Kenya you wouldn't say just what you want to say. There's a time when the media was caged. I mean, there is nothing you could be able to. So the democratic space has opened. The freedom of association is there. The freedom to criticize and to speak about leaders and about what the president has done or not done. Those liberties are there. We really need to appreciate and celebrate. Just like we enjoy the freedom of worship. We have such a unique country that we would declare, number one, we are secular. So that everybody has a ground. Then number two, we say there is freedom of worship. So anybody finds their ground within the system of what we have as a democracy. But we are growing, and I believe we'll be able to get there. With what we have institutionalized in electioneering, better. We will be able to wake up to another reality by and by. And as long as the common man or the wananchi are in charge of the processing of what you are doing, as long as we don't have renegade leaders, we don't have dictators, we don't have what, people respect the authority vested on the wananchi to make decisions and to put them in power. That is why the president-elect said Kenyans have won. It is the people on the ground who have stood to vote, to define our future and to affirm what they are saying about where we should go and who should lead us. Those are privileges we enjoy on account of democracy. Somebody was presenting a joke. Kenyans are so strange. And they say the president in a neighboring country is wondering, how do they allow everybody to download the results from? And that is a whatever, a pickup for us. I mean, we are in a new level as a country.
As we wind up, Pastor, what does this win mean for the church?
Quite an interesting question to ask. We have had a mixture of many things when it comes to the church in Kenya and politics. Number one, we have a huge degree of a level of ignorance in the church when it comes to political issues. And we have the clergy sometimes stepping out, blaring what they want to say, probably without the practical knowledge of the dynamics of what politics entails. And again, we have also had those issues of men rising to prophesy and to talk about whoever they think. And you sit back and you wonder, who is the prophet here and who is the player? Because at the end of the day, the Bible gives us the authority to wait on a prophecy. If it doesn't come to pass, the prophet was speaking from himself, he's a liar. So somebody said after we finish the tallying, we also need to verify prophecies and get to know whether these alleged prophets, they were speaking from their own, were they speaking the mind of God and all that. And number two, we had the fight between the political campaigners. At one time, somebody made an allegation that there is a predominance of Christianity, you know, and we need to do something about it. I beg to differ, because if we are a defined secular nation with the freedom of worship, that is an open platform for every religion to be able, I think we have heard that. We don't have animosity whether Christians versus Muslims. We don't fight. There is freedom for everybody. I think we have Muslims mushrooming everywhere in this country, in villages, mosques are being built and all that. And so I think that was narrow for a leader to say, we think we need to fight Christianity to bring it to the level of other religions. The other thing I want to appreciate is the courage of the president-elect. I think he has never shied from his spiritual convictions. Now, somebody will tell you, this fellow is a pretender. Why? But picking from the life of William Samuel Ruto, he was a CEO official, Christian Union official while in the university. My friend, in the 90s, in the 80s, for you to be a saved student in the university was a miracle. Those days, you go to the university and you are paid 6,000 shillings as pocket money, and everything is provided. We had food. You know food? You know food? I mean, you eat anything and everything bought by the government. And the life in the university then, the freedom was way beyond reality. Discourse are there, Pombe is in the, and for somebody to be distinguished enough to be regarded not only as saved but as a leader, that is a statement. I listened to the president-elect yesterday and he was like, I've been prayed into position. It took prayer, it took whatever, and I thank God. So I want to be very cardinal that the church benefits. There is somebody to identify with the faith. He is loud, he is clear, he is sound. And every other religion benefits, because we are not here for religious assignment. This is a national concern. And the national concern in the democratic space is everybody to find their place. And we have done enough. Even if the atheists have their own place and right, they are allowed in this country to have a voice. Can you imagine that? And so it is a church to understand this, to appreciate this, to take advantage of this, and every other religion, for them to be able to build what they have as an agenda for the faith. Faith is part of life. It is part of what we are. And the church is not just about singing and clapping hands. It is part of the build-up of the community values. The church is in school programs. The church deals with the social ills and evils. More than anybody would do. Religion plays that big role. We have rehabilitated people by just talking to them out of drugs, out of alcoholism, out of this. We have settled marriage issues, we solved this. And it is not with a legal process. I sit in my office with people with differences. And so we shouldn't bring the play of whether it is religion versus another, whether it is religion versus politics. It is part and parcel of our life. Let's give religion its room and space. Let's give governance its place and the room. And that way we'll be able to build a strong country, a united country, a country without animosity and without religious or whichever other conflicts. Peace is what we need, and it is what we are enjoying. It is what we have been bequeathed, and we want to appreciate and foster that to greater heights.
Pastor, I would just like you to say a prayer as we wind up.
Good. We want to thank God for bringing us this far, as I said, as we wait for the final processing of the electioneering process. We have the president-elect. We have the window of the 7 or so days for anybody to appeal against the decision that has been declared, which is a very honorable thing. You don't need to fight. Go to court and register your concerns. And we want to pray that life will come back to normal. We need to go back to life. Children need to go back to school. We need to kickstart our business activities. With the COVID issue just ended the other day, now electioneering came in. I mean, we've been such a busy country with things that are challenging our welfare. And I want to pray that all of us are going to unite and become one, be friends, be brothers, and give an opportunity for tomorrow. We step again out to be able to do good and to compete another day. Father, in the name of Jesus, we want to thank you. Indeed, you have been on our side as a nation. We want to thank you for the democratic growth that we have experienced over the years. We want to field of electioneering in this country, mighty God. We want to thank you for wisdom that has come through governance, that we are able to campaign without violence. We are able to do elections without violence. We are here post that election with minimal skirmishes, Lord of glory. We want to thank you and honor you. We want to pray, Jehovah Father, even as we finalize the processing of this, to swear in a new president and a new government, Jehovah Father, that you will bless this nation. We give you praise and we give you honor. We want to thank you for the pronouncements by the president-elect that we are going to foster and forge ahead. We will not go back to settle scores. We are going to focus on building this great and honorable nation. We want to thank you. We want to bless you. We want to pray, Jehovah Father, that all of us as a nation will remember at the end of the competition, we are brothers, we are neighbors, we are friends, we are customers, we are common church goers. And Master, you're going to bless us and you're going to do us good. Bless this land and do us good. In Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor. Thank you so much. That was really insightful.
God bless.
So this is the watch. We continue to keep watch for our country. We don't stop praying. We keep praying. My name is Lucy Mwendwa. You can talk to us on our social media platforms at JCC TV on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram. I am at Lucy Flora Mwendwa across, again, all social media platforms. Continue watching JCC TV.
God bless you and thank you.